Welcome everybody. My name is Tisha. I am the co-host of the Social Connect Business Happy Hour along with Brandon, my co-host in the back there. And I want to say thank you for coming out to round 8. This is our last one of the season. So excited to be able to celebrate it with you pre-Thanksgiving style. Kari, raise your hand, Kari. Kari is with Sweet Potato Everything and is providing the pie for tonight. But we just want to say thanks again for coming out. So Social Connect, like I said, this is our 8th month doing this, and love doing this event because I feel like we get to meet real people. We get to talk to real people. There's none of this excessive business card throwing. It's really about connecting and creating those connections and seeing those connections through and cultivating relationships. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to this amazing panel. Who knows Ray Schey? Ray Schey, Phoenix Business Journal publisher. You guys know him? Jonathan's like, sausage stuffing? I'm like, Ray, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. And then we've got Sydney Grover. Sydney is with Can You Spare a Story? She's our nonprofit of the month, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that. And we've got Jim Thompson, city manager for the city of Scottsdale. How are you doing, Jim? You're doing good. All right, so this panel is really just to look at a couple of different questions that we ask. So each of the panelists has a few minutes to answer a question, and then the audience can also ask questions as well. So be thinking of something that you'd like to ask them. But I have a specific question prepared for each of you. But I'm going to kick it off and introduce you to Ray. Like I said, he is the Phoenix Business Journal publisher. He handles all the day-to-day aspects of the publication, reaching nearly 60,000 businesses throughout Phoenix. Within 1 year of joining the American City Business Journals, he was promoted to the role of publisher in May 2014, after leading a successful sales effort as director of advertising at the Milwaukee Business Journal. He is currently a member of the Greater Phoenix Leadership, serves on the board of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University, my alma mater. Did I tell you that was my degree? That was my degree. I went there. Yeah. Pretty cool. And he serves on the board of the Arizona Tech Council, Visit Phoenix, the Downtown Phoenix Partnership, Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, and the Maricopa Community Colleges Foundation Board. Busy guy. And you have 2 grown kids.
I do. Fortunately, they're grown.
Fortunately, they're grown. Okay. All right, so question for Ray. How many of you, I just want to ask, how many of you believe that you manufacture opportunities? Or do you feel that opportunities just kind of magically fall into your lap? Yeah? Dolly's like me. They fall into my lap. Well, when you have a hat like that, of course they're going to fall into your lap. So I asked Ray this question. Do you believe that you manufacture your opportunities or they fall into your lap? Can you share an experience where you were uncertain of an opportunity, yet you took a leap of faith?
Yeah, I think you definitely manufacture opportunities. Sometimes being in the right place at the right time doesn't hurt either. But for me personally was taking advantage of hearing about an opportunity within American City Business Journals. I was the director of advertising with the publication in Rochester, and took the leap to join this company in Milwaukee. I wanted to get to a warmer climate, and the opportunity was within Milwaukee. And so the premise was to go to Milwaukee, do well as the director of advertising, and opportunities to move up into the role of publisher would be there. So, you know, that was kind of like the leap and the jump that I took, was to move to Milwaukee, which, you know, from Rochester, New York, cold and snow, but went to Milwaukee, which was freezing cold for the year that I spent there. And, you know, had just a great experience, and was successful leading the advertising sales department there too. But that's when the opportunity to come out here to Arizona and to Phoenix specifically to lead the Phoenix Business Journal came my way as a result of just first taking that opportunity to go to Milwaukee and having to start maybe at a lower position in order to move further up. So it really, it's paid off, you know, tremendously too. I couldn't be happier moving here and meeting so many great people like Tisha, and, you know, probably many of the people I'll meet here tonight. So it's just been a wonderful experience overall. I've been here 4.5 years now, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yes, so he brought all of his winter clothes for Sydney. He's like, I have plenty of winter clothes. I have winter clothes for men. All right, so the other thing I wanted to ask you is, so what would you say to others who maybe are on the fence of taking a leap? What would be some words of wisdom that you could share with like the next generation or even entrepreneurs are like, I don't know if I should do that?
You know, I think any experience or anything you try to do is going to somehow help you to grow and become better at whatever it is your next step is. So even trying something and failing is, you're going to learn from that and be able to grow beyond that. But oftentimes the effort that you put forth is going to pay off for you and be able to yield great dividends too. So, you know, I would encourage anyone, and the young people I come in contact with too, I always tell them to, you know, start out wherever that may be, because things happen quickly and opportunities will come along, you know, just as a result of their hard work, and then cashing in on those opportunities too. So, you know, take the chances and try things and learn from it, even though if you fail. I mean, how many successful entrepreneurs have had, you know, several attempts at starting a business, and finally that one that pays off. But, you know, those ones that stop short and kind of walk away from it are the ones that probably, had they tried one more time or two more times, could have been successful and really made it all the way. So try it, take chances.
So Brandon and I were having a conversation about this a little earlier. What did you say, Brandon? You were going to start 7 million businesses, and maybe one will be okay. And maybe you throw, you're like, and then I'm just going to take all of that stuff and put it into this one business. Yeah. I think a lot of us are how many of you are serial entrepreneurs in this room? Like, you're like, I have so many businesses. I just keep trying and trying and trying. Glenn, is that you too?
I don't need to anymore.
Yeah. Nice. But you had to fail to get there, I'm guessing. Yes. Nice. Thanks for sharing that, Glenn. All right. Thank you, Ray. All right, Sydney. Sydney, I'm going to have you pick up that mic too. Sydney is a 21-year-old junior at Grand Canyon University who started Can You Spare a Story in her freshman dorm room. Pretty determined girl. She's studying psychology with a minor in entrepreneurship. She hopes to continue to grow Can You Spare a Story to provide homeless individuals with a platform to share their stories. Now, I think I shared with a lot of you that is also Homeless Awareness Month. So we are doing a drive. If you brought toiletries or you brought clothing, be sure to drop that off at the front. Or if you're like, I'd really like to support what she's doing, then I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that and what she's looking for. But Sydney, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about Can You Spare a Story, and then I'll ask you the question.
So it was started in my dorm room, and it was something so passionate that I've always been into. I grew up serving the homeless population at the Las Vegas Rescue Mission and really growing my love there. And then my brother struggled with some substance abuse issues when I was 13. And I really saw how substance abuse can affect an individual. So I started to really understand why people get into the way that they are, and we can't judge these individuals based on what they've been through. So I wanted to provide homeless individuals an opportunity to say who they are without the worry of without the worry of judgment and people really thinking negatively about them and putting these prejudgments on them. From there, we got thousands of readers and people who are really involved in wanting to get to know these individuals deeper and serve them. So we became a nonprofit organization in the summer of 2017, and we held our first priceless pop-up shop, which is a free shopping experience without the worry of cost. In our first year, we've served about 1,500 homeless individuals with clothing, and then we provided showers and haircuts at our last event to really get these individuals feeling confident in their skin once again. So from there, we are working right now on planning our next event here in Phoenix. It's our very first one in January. We are working with Central Arizona Shelter Services, and we're going to set up on their campus and just host our first pop-up shop, having clothing, mostly men's and women's winter clothing. Anything you guys have to donate, if you could bring it, we would so appreciate it since we don't have as much support here.
All right. So real quick too, Sydney. So any of you running a nonprofit, want to start a nonprofit? Any of you in the audience? Okay, so I have a question for you because I know that starting a business, starting actually just a nonprofit can have its set of challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you've experienced in getting the word out and getting the right fundraising and collaborating with the right types of individuals who see what your mission is and that can support you?
So everyone wants to solve the problem of homelessness, but no one really wants to work together to get there. So we all want to put forth our best effort. So what we've decided to do is really collaborate with other organizations, since we are so small, that we can provide different aspects and all work together to serve the same population. So in Las Vegas, we worked with 2 smaller nonprofits as well to serve more individuals. It's so hard to get people behind a cause when there are so many different nonprofits and so many different people to give money to. I think that you just really need to stand out, and that's where the stories come for us. The fact that our readers really get to know these individuals on a deeper level instead of just handing over food or handing over clothes. We inspire people to really get to know these individuals on a deeper level without worrying about their safety. It's a warm volunteering experience instead of the cold volunteering experience where you need to just go home after.
Very good. Thank you, Sydney. All right, and Jim. Jim is the city manager of Scottsdale. How many of you know Jim? Nobody knows you, Jim. That's probably a plus. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was going to ask you this question, but first let me go ahead and introduce Jim. He was appointed Scottsdale City Manager in January 2017. Prior to that, he served as a city manager in Casa Grande, Bothell, Washington, and Bullhead City, Arizona. He has over 30 years of experience as a city manager. He also served on the Arizona State Personnel Board since 2004 and as an adjunct professor in Arizona State University's Department of Public Affairs since 2011. He has a bachelor's degree in accounting from Indiana University, a master's degree in business administration from Regis University, and a PhD from LaSalle University, and attended the senior executive program at Harvard. Thank you for making the time to come today. All right, so Jim and I had a discussion, and I said, you are the face of Scottsdale. What does that look like for you? And you were saying, I get a lot of complaints. You're like, everybody wants to come and yell at me about something, right? Right. So my question to you, and I think that this would resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of on the front line where people are coming to you and maybe they have some issues with your products or services, and what is it that you do? So I want you to share an experience where everything seemed to be going south, and it was your responsibility to keep the peace with the constituents who feel the need to complain to you. So what do you say to them? How do you turn a negative into a positive? How do you keep the peace in Scottsdale, I guess is my question. It's kind of a loaded question.
Thanks. And I don't know if it's Scottsdale or it's all the cities I've been in over the years. I'm going to give an example from Washington just so I don't put myself and displace it in Scottsdale. But I'm going to backtrack. I actually started at 15 my first business, which was a karate studio. I had 3 of them before I was 18. I sold those, and that's how I paid for all my college. So when people wonder, I actually started young and look back at that. And there's days you wake up and go, you know, maybe I should still have the karate school. But I had a choice to make then, and went off to school to better myself. I was the first in my family to do so. That said, though, when you look at situations that occur, I had a large one. It was one we were getting ready to bring the University of Washington into Bothell. If you go up there now, the campus is quite large. At the time, people resisted it. So we had an open public forum for people to come forward, and we actually had to have it in the senior center. So if you're familiar with King County, it's the largest senior center in King County. It's where all the presidents go. Every time they go to Washington State, they go to the senior center in King County because it's just very large, and you have a large group. It had around 10,000 residents show up to the facility. It housed about 12. And interesting enough, none of them wanted to see the university there, and there was a lot of reasons for that. This is going to happen, that's going to, they all had different reasons of why they didn't want it to happen. Today, I got to go back a few years back. It was 20 years after we moved forward and brought the university there. And everybody who was the naysayers, and I think they wanted to tar and feather me at the time, today they come back, oh my God, this is such a wonderful project. I'm so glad we built it. And I go, really? And so you call them out on it. And I did a little bit. But that's the hardest thing that I've learned over the years. The simple decisions, the day-to-day stuff that comes up, you could deal with it. It's just dealing with people. It's trying to find that one thread that you agree on, or that there's potential to agree on, and then work from that and build on that. We have a great divide in the community. We did on this election on an issue. We tend to always have something that's dividing people. But where you find the commonalities, you try to take those and then build off of those and then work towards a common ground. It may not be exactly where you both want to kind of go, but there's many paths to get to the end. And you may have to take a longer path, but in the end, you don't turn around. It's like a player runs for a touchdown, and it's all about them, and they run, and they score, and they turn around, and where's their team? They're like, yeah, whatever. And so you got to bring the team with you. And so sometimes you have to go a longer path. It may take you 2 years rather than 6 months. You may write up your goal, so don't lose sight of that. And I think that's with all relationships. That in Bothell, it was probably the most contentious issue in the entire Seattle area at that time. People were just all over the place. Plus, it would have been the second now campus that University of Washington would have, and that was a big step as well. They're going to open a large campus. Supposed to have 7,000 FTEs to start, ended up with 16,000. Today it's about almost the same size as the main campus for students. And so when you look at what transpired and how it transpired to the community, it was a big issue. But again, when you look at setting a long-term goal or vision, that's the hardest to achieve. The short stuff's easy because everybody wants instant gratification. But when you have people saying no today because it impacts me today in a negative way, if you look at the long term, if it's the best for the community, in my case, those are the hardest to achieve. And so, again, don't lose sight of that. Don't try to make everybody happy every day. You can't. I can't make 250,000 residents happy every day. It's not going to happen. I have to look at what's in the best interest for both the short term and the long term for the community and try to balance that and find that resolve. So, again, any given day, there's a group of people out there that probably think, all kind of names about me, but the reality is, in the long run, I hope they look back and say, that was the right thing to do, and we move forward, and the community's better for it. And, that's probably been my struggle over time, because you want to make somebody happy right then. It's just the way we are. It's natural. And it's sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, I can't get there, but here's what I'll work on, here's what I'll take a look at, and this is what I'll try to get us to, and hopefully there's some resolve in that. But again, I think when we all face those challenges, see if there's one thing you might agree on, and then build on that. Then eventually you may find you agree on more than what you disagree on, and that the one issue you disagreed on really wasn't that big to begin with. So.
Good. All right. So I have one question, and I want to open it up to the audience if you have some questions for Ray, Sydney, or Jim. But love asking this question. Ray, tell me, besides sausage stuffing, what is one word that describes you, and why? Why would you choose that word?
Boy.
Thanksgiving activity.
Yeah. So everyone had. About 20-some years ago, a client of mine gave me this recipe for sausage stuffing that I make almost every year around Thanksgiving, and it's unbelievable. But so I'll have to do that. I'll send it to Tisha, and she can post it.
We'll do a sausage stuffing party.
Bring it here next year. The first word that comes to mind is happy, because I'm just a happy person. I love what I do. I love the people that I interact with, through the people that work with me. And that's just one little thing, but I say work with me because I never say they work for me, or I hate saying the word boss, because to me, the people that I work with are, although I might be the manager of them and what they do day to day, but, I think I get more from the people that work with me by using that term than I, use the term boss. But I guess resilient too. Everyone in their careers, I think, overcome certain challenges and things along the way, personally, professionally. And so I think I've done that too. And, being able to move to different parts of the country and still be able to pack up and lay a stake in the ground somewhere and make things work. And I think, too, just coming here to Arizona and being successful by, our standard of measurement for business journals is at the bottom, the bottom line is still revenue. So we could have the greatest content in the world, we could have, 1 million subscribers, but unless the revenue is there to substantiate what you're doing day to day, you're not going to be successful, or you won't be considered successful, and you won't keep your job in all likelihood. So the fact that I've been able to move here without knowing anyone. In fact, I had an opportunity to come and visit the area. I'd never been in Arizona before until I flew in to start this job 4.5 years ago, and was able to, to immediately make great contacts and get to meet so many people here in the Valley, and being able to take the publication that I inherited here and make it better each year over the last 4 years has been really gratifying. So I'm throwing like 3 different words at you: happy, resilient, determined. So yeah, all that too, and friend of Tisha's. So
Tell them about the new sheriff in town.
okay. I don't know if anyone saw the picture, but one of the first events that I attended here was Goodwill's Denim and Diamonds over at the Fairmont Princess, and the whole Western scene that they have back there too. So I put on all the Western wear and had this sheriff badge and a gun, just dressed up in the attire, and so I had the picture taken. It was just a little 4x6 print. My promotion or events manager at the time took that picture and went and had it blown up into one of those fathead. It's like it's more than life size. It's like, the upper body of it is from here up, and it's me wearing looking like this badass face, for lack of a better description, and with all this attire, and so it's blown up. So it's sitting on this. It has a stand and sits in my office there too. So when I moved here, it was my events manager and a couple other people from one of the resorts here in the area, and so I said there was a new sheriff in town. So that's what kind of spurred this this production of this fathead that has me with all this, attire, Western wear and everything too at from Denim and Diamonds, a Goodwill event. But anyway, it's kind of like a good conversation piece in my office, so everybody that comes in sees it. And now we're in some temporary office spaces. Our space is being renovated. And so somebody put a sign up like, how many meetings have you had today? And, have you closed any sales today? And so they're using it as an inspiration, tool for inspiration too in our office. So it's fun.
Cool. All right. Can I hand that to
I feel like a word that would describe me is ethical. I know that's kind of like a loser word, like I'm a 90-year-old man. But I think that I would rather succeed in an ethical way than to kind of push people down on the way to the top. I think that that's a huge part in a lot of things that entrepreneurs especially miss out on. There's room for all of us at the top, so don't push people down on your way up.
That's a tough one. People, it depends on who you ask, right, on any given day, but I can be direct. I've been doing it a long time, and when you have a lot, so some people say I'm pretty direct when I respond. I'll ask a question, it is what it is, here it is, and then we move forward, because if you sit there and you beat around the bush all day long, and so I'm kind of the opposite of what you would think is a politician. I'm not, and I'm not truly a bureaucrat either. As noted, most of my degrees, all my degrees, are business degrees. So I have no public admin degrees. It's not what I, when I was younger, aspired to be. It was an accountant, so I'm a CPA by trade. So I'm an introvert, not an extrovert, so sitting up here is kind of odd for me, but I do it every day, all the day, all day long. But again, I think probably people direct, and then passionate. I do care. It was noted, you talk about employees and those that work for you. I was reading an article the other night. I don't sleep much, and there's reasons for that, but about Memphis and the top companies in Memphis. And the 10 top companies in Memphis were small companies that everybody felt like family. So it wasn't like you were going to work. You were going to go hang out with family. And to me, that's what I aspire to do with the organization that I so happen to be, placed where I'm placed, but I see myself as that team member. I've driven a backhoe. I've changed out filters and sewer lift stations. I've done every job in the city just because I feel that's important. I'll go out and work with my employees. And today I had my lunch. I didn't end up eating lunch. Where I did is I had a few of the parks people were out replacing a pump out front in one of the fountains, and I went and hung out with them and helped them. So that's just what I do. That's the greatest joy in the job. So I think that's part of it too, is just having that compassion and passion kind of combination to know that they're the ones making the difference. Yeah, I get to sit and make decisions and do the things like that, but at the end of the day, it's them delivering the services on and day in and day out, and they're the ones who make us look good or not good. I always say that my job, if something goes wrong in the city, it wasn't me, or it was me. It was certainly wasn't my bosses, the mayor and council, and it wasn't my staff. If something went right, I had nothing to do with it. And so when you look at it, that's truly kind of where I sit, is that I'm there to facilitate both sides and manage all the things that come forward. But at the end of the day, if it went wrong, I'll take full responsibility for something that goes wrong in a community. And there was one day somebody called me up, they were all upset. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry for that. And yeah, I had no clue what they were talking about. But still, you take ownership of it. And that's what you do as a leader. You're not going to throw anybody out under the bus or otherwise. You'll go find out what happened afterwards, and you'll deal with it. But again, it's not one of those situations. I think that's all the individual wanted to hear, is that we're sorry it happened, and we'll go out and make it right. And that's all it took. But a lot of times, well, it wasn't me. It was a different department. It was something else. And so we try to instill that in our employees as well. But again, that's just the feeling part of the job. I'd have to say early in my career I wasn't that way. It's just all the years of doing it, you just gain that respect and time doing it. I guess it's wisdom, all the mistakes that you make, you know that no one's perfect, and you can't expect people to be at that level.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions in the audience? Any questions? No questions? Yes, Glenn. Biggest challenge you faced in your career? Jim? Oh, you're putting me on the spot. Okay. I need to think about that. Jim?
Here we go. Problem, send it to Jim. I get it. That's what I do all. Yeah, that's what I do all day. Greatest challenge in my career side, I mentioned one in Bothell, and I've had multiple challenges, so it's never just one. And is there a greatest one? It depends on how you look at it. Do I look at it from a fiscal standpoint? Do I look at it a game changer? Do I look at it as one that impacts people in different ways? And probably the largest one was with the University of Washington project. We realigned the 527, the 522, which are major highways that go into Seattle, and the 405. And doing that was a challenge. It wasn't a simple thing. I had engineers from, all over, different organizations, different cities around us, and everybody had a different opinion of what should be done. At the end of the day, it worked. We put in a large traffic circle, which I know people in Arizona are just like, oh my God, a traffic circle. Yeah, right? But we did, and it works great. The traffic off of 522, the 527, the 405, it all flows beautifully, then goes right into the university or right into town or right over around the lake to Seattle. And but it took a lot of effort to do that, and it was very challenging because everybody had different opinions. No one wanted a traffic circle. Yeah, go figure. But it functions extremely well.
What did you see as your path to success in that? What did you personally do that made the difference?
I think, again, just sitting down, getting everybody in the same room so you wouldn't have half the story, and say, okay, what are our options? What can we do here? And our end goal is to have the best functioning roadway system we can at this now what we call cluster mess that we had that was going to occur with the university going in. And I want everybody's opinion. And we're going to walk through it all, and we're going to see if we can find some common. And we eventually did. The size of it's a very large traffic circle, so it's not a 2-lane, it's a 4-lane. And how will that function? So it's very different, but it tends to function great. But everybody had different opinions towards that, and we just walked through them. And I'll use the old Nike story, this analogy I used this morning. I had a meeting with all my mid-leaders in our organization. They call themselves managers, but I asked the difference between manager and leader, and we had fun with that. But I used the Nike story. Nike, when it was a small company, they had a bunch of departments they were growing. They brought a title into the organization. It was called Catalyst. And they actually called the position Catalyst. And they sent it out to all the different divisions in the organization and said, your job is to be a catalyst, like in a chemical reaction, but to ask the why question until it can't be asked anymore. And so I think when you look at challenges, you look at things, you just keep asking why. And I ask myself every day, why do we do that? Well, we've always done it that way. Okay, cool, but why have we always done it that way? And so you just keep asking the question until you get to the end result. And I think that opens people's eyes beyond. I don't like being, and I hate to use this analogy, inside the box, but I like outward thinking. It's the only way that you create greatness. You don't create greatness inside a box. You know, the greatest things that have ever happened is kind of, you said you try and you'll fail and you just keep trying. Or in your case, you're going to open, 7 million businesses or whatever, and one's going to be successful. And it's Thomas Edison. If he would have gave up, where would we be today? We wouldn't have lights and other things. So it took him thousands and thousands of tries. So again, don't give up, but ask the why question constantly, and I think that will help you overcome that challenge that you have. It allows you to. They do, yeah, and yeah, why? And I don't know if you've ever. I actually enjoy it, getting out and engaging, and I even like going into elementary schools. Number one, I'm older than dirt to them, but that's cool. But you engage with them and just their mind. It takes you to places you would have never thought. That's why I love teaching so much. I get in class and now I'm online because I decided to go online because I didn't want to drive downtown anymore and fight the traffic and crowds. But I have a very diverse group. And it could be from somebody who just finished undergrad, going into the grad program. It could be mid-career. Most of them are mid-career. And then it could be late career. Somebody who retired said, I just want to go back to school. I want to learn. And so when I'm in a class like that, I have the opportunity to ask them questions. And that's just it. It's kind of like that. Same with going in an elementary school. You get so many different responses. It opens my eyes. And a lot of things we do in life, there's no right answer or perfect answer. It's that there's the best answer, but there's no right or perfect. And so I have all these different opinions on issues. I'll ask them, okay, what do you want? What do you think? What motivates you in the workplace? Years ago, we would say, well, it's a paycheck, or it's this. Today it's about knowing that you're making a difference, about knowing how your piece of what you do makes a difference in the greater good. All of those things that didn't exist 20 years ago exist today. And so it gives me a chance to open my eyes to a different way of thinking. So I'm constantly learning, and I love it. And so again, the 2-year-old attitude, I love that thought because it's so pure. And it's just out there, and again, it's back to the, what's the one word? Direct. And the 2-year-old's direct. You ask them a question, they're going to tell you, and you're going to, wow, okay, like, yeah, how old do you think I am? You're older than dirt. Oh, okay, and so it just happens.
Oh, sorry. I think one of my biggest challenges is I take myself too seriously, and then I realize that no one else is taking me that seriously. So I think that instead of seeking respect and constantly looking for it, give them a reason to respect me. I know I'm 5 feet tall and look like a 12-year-old, so I kind of have to work for it a little more than other people. But just really understanding that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to constantly know what every word means, and I can Google things if it doesn't make sense. That's okay. So I feel like just really learning how to accept where I am in life and learn from it.
I think probably my greater challenges over the years have been just moving to different markets and starting over and different jobs without knowing the market, without knowing anybody. So I've done that 3 times in my career, once to Tampa, Florida, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and now Phoenix, Arizona. So, although you could consider it a challenge, I also think it's an opportunity because, again, we go back to the original conversations about taking chances and trying to do things that are a little different, maybe, getting out of your comfort zone and doing some things that might not be the most comfortable for you to take a big step forward personally and professionally.
For you, Dylan. Okay, so I've been an entrepreneur since 2004. I've pivoted a ton. I've had a lot of different opportunities. And I created this event. Some of you have gone to it, known it, but I created this event called the Mom Entrepreneur Celebration, where I really wanted to support mom entrepreneurs. I wanted to share their success over struggle stories. And I did this event for 6 years. Like, I personally funded it, emceed it, hosted it, funded, all of that. And I remember the last year, I felt like it was I wouldn't say a fail, but I went to Huntington Beach. I moved the event to California. And I don't know what the heck happened, but the women were not supportive. Like, everything that I created was totally just switched and flipped upside down. And now the women were catty, and they were upset, and they were You know, like, I'm better than you, Ray. You shouldn't have won. I should have won. Like, that kind of mentality. And I was like, what the hell kind of monster did I create? Like, what is wrong with this picture? Like, I'm going around thinking I'm doing something good for the community. I'm supporting these women. I'm giving them a voice. I'm doing all these things because I want to support these ladies. And now it's backfiring on me. And I was in tears. Like, I was like, and I missed my son's chess tournament, which was just a freaking mess. Like, I was like, I'm missing my chess tournament for this. Yeah, it was, so I came back and I felt like I fell into a little bit of a depressed, and I wrote about it in my book. I was like, I'm in a Netflix binge and bonbon state. Like, I don't want to do anything. I want to watch One Tree Hill and binge watch. Like, 'cause I just don't know what I want to do when I grow up anymore. And I think that that's when I really started to pivot to figure it out. But I had one of my good friends tell me that, because she was one of my finalists at one point, and she's like, I feel like you're giving all of us a complex. Like, you're asking us to be vulnerable and get up there, and then you're giving one award, and now you just throw us all in a tizzy if we don't win this. So I really had to kind of check, not that I thought that I was doing something wrong, but I'm like, damn, is this what people feel? Like, did I do something wrong here? And I just decided, I was like, you know what? I just needed to move on from this. And I think that that's the biggest thing. That's the challenge that I find is, if I've said this, like, if my head and my heart don't mesh with what I'm doing, then I know that that's something that I can't keep forcing, that I really have to turn it around, figure it out, what really is calling me, why do I need to do this, and then move in that direction. So I feel like I've had so many life experiences. I've had a lot of different adventures, but I know that there's always a time when it's time to end that and move on to something else. Does that make sense? Like, if I keep doing this, I feel like I'm being forced to do this. It's time to change it up. It's time to move and pivot. Pivot's like my word, pivot. All right, good. Anyone else have any questions? We good? See some new faces that popped in. Kari has pie. Yes. Dan? Oh, I'm going to start us. All right. Okay, I have two. I'm a cheat. Okay, so I read, Brandon's smiling because he knows what it is, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Love that book. Counterintuitive approach to living a good life. There's even a section on there about failure is not an option, or tough, talking about failure. When I was writing my book, I'm like, if he can put that in there, I'm putting it in my title too. Because I'm like, that's what I want to say, that there are a lot of what the F moments, and I'm going to write that. Like, I'm going to be as honest and real as I can. The other book that I read, great read, is The Go-Giver. You read it? Oh, read it. I feel like when I read that book, someone gave it to me. I read that, and it's very short. It's maybe like a day or two. You could get through it. But I was like, these are the reason why the people that want to build culture, the people that are like, I am not your boss, I'm walking alongside you, that's really what that book is about. You're really there with a giver mentality, not I take, Read it. And then tell me. Then report back. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'll put it in my email. Okay. Thanks, Erin. Thanks for the reminder. All right.
It's actually a book that I reread this year. I first read it about 4 years ago. All the publishers in our company were asked to read it, and it's a book called Who, W-H-O, and it's really extensive research done for a lot of CEOs and their recruitment efforts and finding the right person for the job and how important culture is, speaking of culture. So it's not just finding the person with like the greatest, qualifications and skill set and so on, but it's how well will somebody, either adapt to the culture or help to further the culture too. Because so many times there's those, grave mistakes where a CEO will bring in another C-suite executive, and it's just they try to turn things in their direction based on their experiences and what their skill set is, and it just doesn't work. But it can cost the company, time and hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, depending on the size of the company, by making the wrong move and hiring the wrong person for the job. So, book called Who.
So I'm currently reading The Alchemist, and that's one of my favorite. I've read it before, but I was like 14, so I don't know what happened. So rereading that. And then Tuesdays with Morrie. I've cried. You should read it if you enjoy crying. And then I just read You Are a Badass, and there's tons of them. There's one for finance, there's one for business. Read all of them. They're really amazing.
Being a professor, you have to read a lot of books. So I've read a lot. What I tend to do is from those books, I take little snippets, and I have a huge file that contains just about everything you can imagine. And over time, you see it more. More recently, I read a book called The Goal. It was very interesting. It was about achieving a goal. It's setting a goal and going to achieve it. And again, about the different paths you may take and so forth. But excellent book. It's a short read. It's simple. It's not complex, and keep it in a simple thought process. But I enjoyed that. I mean, there's tons of books over the years, maybe Covey, Singe. I tend not to read pleasure books. I tend to read ones that are business focused. And it's just what I've done my whole life. I know, sounds boring, but gives me something to do. Now online, obviously you could pull down anything. You could, my students try to read the Cliff Notes and answer questions. I mean, all those good things exist. But as far as a certain book, The Goal, I enjoyed that one.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Kari is in the back. Kari, got your pie ready? Sweet potato pie? All right. Everyone help yourself. So a couple of announcements. This is our last one, as I mentioned. And next year, we're taking a little bit of a different approach. So Brandon, Karina, Ryan Parker. Where are you, Ryan? There's Ryan Parker with Ignite, Justin with Ignite too. So we're teaming up and doing a couple things differently, and definitely want to add in more of a nonprofit component so that we can get out there and support the community, and you can bring your family and friends with to do that. So be on the lookout for that. I do send out an email to everybody who is in the room. So if I don't have your email, please let me know, and I'll get that to you with a link to this YouTube video, connections, and so forth, and all the books for Erin. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. But I just want to say thanks again. Round 8. Here we go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, yeah, we do just a group picture just to kind of commemorate the evening with our sponsor, Jonathan Ingram. Jonathan, so we just kind of meet here. So guys, if you're here at the chair, maybe stay there, and then we'll just kind of move things over. But I want to say thank you to Ray, to Sydney, and to Jim for being my special guest tonight and for sharing. I do want to make a little disclaimer. And Ryan, where's Ryan? Ryan Parker? Okay, so I just gave a talk at Ignite, and it was all on the networking, power of networking. Glenn was there. He came back, so I must have said something that interested him. But I was talking about networking with a purpose. And I just want to make this little disclaimer, because I think that some people come into a networking event, they meet Ray, and then you try to follow up with Ray, or maybe Ray tries to follow up with you, and then you don't respond. Any of you know that? It drives me you crazy, it's just crazy. Because I'm like, if you're going to make the effort to get to know Ray, then why wouldn't you cultivate the relationship with Ray? Why do you let it stay in this room? Or if I send you a LinkedIn message and you never respond, I take offense. Do you take offense? I'm like, that Ray. Oh, I know. And I agree. There are some people that are not on LinkedIn. But I say, be determined, find the person, connect with that person, and say, I met you that night, and I'd still like to keep the relationship going. Like, I'm just saying. Good? Good. All right? Okay. Well, thank you so much again for coming. Grab a pie, group photo, and yeah, thanks again. Appreciate it.